Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a hot minute, but we are back. Welcome to Emerald City Sports, the podcast. Yeah, we took a little bit of a break there. When high school gets a little out of hand, you gotta do what you gotta do. So, schoolwork always comes first, especially when you are sophomores in high school. I mean, it's going to be a lot worse when we're juniors and seniors in high school, but, we're getting a little bit of a warm-up in that as sophomores, but we have squeezed time during spring break to come back to this podcast, and Josh, while were away, yeah, we missed a lot of stuff, so I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all of it, but this may be a long episode, so buckle up, sit tight. We've got a lot of stuff to devour down today. Let's start off with the Seattle Mariners. They are back into the Seattle sports scene, but it has not been a very good start for them. They split a series with the Boston Red Sox and lost a series to the Cleveland Guardians. Josh, when you look at the scoreboard and you look at the scorecards you have on your desk that I know you've been keeping track of, it has not been a good look for that squad, especially hitting-wise. Look, pitching, it's been not bad. It's been here, good performances, bad performances, but it's really been the hitting that's been the biggest issue. Josh, how do we feel about them, especially just the amount of strikeouts that have been happening?
Not good. I mean, going into this year, they really wanted to reduce the number of strikeouts they had in last year. I mean, that was part of the reason why we couldn't win games and clutch up in games like that 2022 team did. And just this first 7 games, all we've done is strike out a lot, and that's not helping and not putting the ball into play, not giving the team the chance to make some runs or some rallies when they are needed. I mean, Blanco as well got, I would say, new players to the group. We've lost, I would say, some key players, and the new guys haven't been stepping up. And our top guys, Julio, just has been okay. He hasn't like tremendously helped this team, as well as Crawford and everything. Just no one is clicking at all, and that's not a good way to start the season.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, no one on that team has been really hitting well. Maybe besides Ty, I think. Isn't Ty batting like 30 something right now? It's not. I mean, it's not crazy for like 7 games into the season, but considering that the rest of the team is batting like 200 and under, especially like guys like Polanco and J.P. Crawford, who's batting like .807 something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Ty's been looking pretty good, especially since he changed like his new form and he went to driveline and all that. So I mean, it's been working out pretty well for him. But yeah, for the rest of the team, the hitting has not been it. We talked a little about it. I mentioned the pitching was pretty good in a way, but there have also been a lot of question marks, and the biggest question mark has to be Luis Castillo. He was our opening day starter. In the first game, we lost 6-4, and I believe he gave up 3 runs. 4 or was it 4 runs? I think it was 4 runs.
I think it was 4 in the first game.
And then he gave up another 4, I believe, in the Guardians. 5. He gave up 5.
I have a scorecard for I have a scorecard for this one. He gave up 4.
He gave up 4. He left before the end of the 6th. Before the end of the 6th inning. Yeah, Castillo in 10.2 innings pitched, he has not been him at all. People are really raising concerns. Is this guy really our opening day starter? In fact, Josh and we went to the game with our buddy Will, and the fans in front of us were arguing about if Castillo was really the one or not. Was he really the one who should have been an opening day starter? And I mean, they've got a good reason to argue about that, because he has just not been the ace that the team's been expecting at the mound. And people have been raising questions like, what if Kirby was the starter? What if Logan was a starter? Like, a very big question mark in Luis Castillo. Josh, how do you feel about his performance over this first 2 games?
Not good at all. I mean, just not a good performance for what is an opening day starter. I wouldn't say that it should. I feel like opening day starter shouldn't have like that much importance, especially as we go on further in the season. But if he's our ace pitcher, he should probably help the team win and help pick up some wins. And to start the season, he hasn't in at all. I mean, our pitching literally has to be because of how bad our hitting is. Our pitching has to be literally perfect in order to win games because our hitting cannot rally back for more than 2 or 3 runs. And Castillo isn't helping. I think, yeah, I agree. George Kirby did very well on his first game.
That second
Is
game
that
though, yikes.
or second?
No, that second
His
game was
first game.
horrible.
I said
Yeah.
his first game. Oh, Kirby.
Oh, well, I was talking
No,
about how
his
like
first
his
game.
second game was
Oh,
atrocious, but
his second game sucked, but his first game was absolutely dominant, and maybe that's not completely ace material as we saw in that second game. He's absolutely beatable if you put a team like the Guardians in front of him. I would say there's a chance that he could be the better pitcher coming out of this lineup. And honestly, I'm thinking about the possibility of Castillo being maybe like traded or some change. Like I think that might be the good move because I can't remember last year. He's ever since like July he gave up almost 3 runs every single game. I don't remember a good game from Castillo after that All-Star break in 2023. Um, digressing possibly. Has anybody noticed? I don't know, and I think maybe this could be the time if we want to make some big change. And Hancock's stepping up. Wu is in the wings, waiting in IL. The Mariners could try to move forward with this young group of pitchers.
no, I completely agree what you're saying about Castillo like regressing. I noticed that too. I mean, like the last few games he had last season, it was just not it at all. And for him to carry it over this season, the Mariners, we're always like barely missing the playoffs because we just can't start off strong at the beginning of the season. We need a strong start if we want to be able to truly contend for a spot in the playoffs, like we did 2 seasons ago. Or else we're just going to end up like last season and 3 seasons ago where we're just that short because we couldn't start off strong. And the pitching, like you said, needs to be lights out because the hitting hasn't done anything to help. But if we got guys like Castillo giving it run after run, yeah, it's just not going to be a good look for the Mariners, especially for the start of the season in April and going towards May. Now they have a road trip for a little bit. First against Milwaukee for 3 games, and then a 4-game series against, a 3-game series against the Blue Jays. So, yeah, there's really nothing else to say except for that. They got to pick up wins here. Come on. A couple of series wins would really get you back into good spots. On the bright side, though, the AL West isn't really doing that good anyways. I mean, the Astros are 2-5.
How about them Astros?
And the Athletics just
Astros.
are the Athletics. Like, and everybody knows the Angels every year will suck near the end. They're 4-2. Rangers are 4-2. It doesn't really matter. Really early in the season, but you want to have a good start if you want to be pushing for the playoffs by the end of it. And a crazy run in August isn't going to do you any favors if you can't do anything to make up for that when you're at the start of the season in April and stuff. So they got to start clicking soon, or else the fans will be pressing the panic button pretty fast. But we're only 7 games in of 162, so we'll have time. We'll figure out. Hopefully, they figure out something for this team to start improving. But as the looks of it right now, I mean, they've got some work to do. That's all. That's all that's really got to be said.
The trade deadline. Hopefully, we will be able to win enough that we can actually buy players during a trade deadline.
Yeah. How do we feel about John Stanton, by the way? I've been hearing a lot of hate for John Stanton. So, Josh, how do you feel about that guy? Because I've heard mixed reactions. I know people that really hate him. Some people that are, like, trying to, like, feel bad for him. I don't know. How do we feel?
Obviously, you put the blame for the team's troubles on either the head coach, the owner, some power of position. Complaints have included 25% dynamic ticket prices, which include like a 25% increase. Just bad stuff happening at the park sometimes. Prices, including food and such. The bad team in general, losing Henio, trading Kelnick, which I mean, I guess is an okay move, but now he's kind of thriving in Atlanta,
Yeah.
which was expected. Let's be real. We trade players and then they became good like Teo, and such. Do I think that means selling the team just because we're having, I would say, an okay season, which is still a lot better. At least we're not Oakland.
That's true.
Let's be real. At least our team is not leaving the city, just like the Seattle Pilots, who are the Milwaukee Brewers, who we are going to play starting tomorrow.
Or
I feel like we should have
today
had a
when you're
rivalry,
watching it.
so.
Yeah.
But anyway, does this elicit, I would say, him selling or the team? No.
Yeah, it's so weird in baseball because, like in football, really, like the outside thing, like the things outside of the team don't really affect what's going on. Like with the money rights, because they have like a salary cap and everything. In baseball, there's no salary cap. So the money you make from TV deals, from tickets, from food, like it all affects the team. So at the end of the day, you can't, like, I guess you can't really blame them for, like, being a little cheap on their money and not like going out and buying and like trying to get a good big name player because they're not making enough money for it. But at the same time, like the fans are they are very much losing their patience with John Stanton and Jerry Dipoto and those guys. But I mean, at that point, what can they do? They don't have the money for it, and I know the fans really want some guys, but it's just clashing and it's not able to find a solution. So the Mariners hopefully will figure something out there, but
I think
it's a lot more
Stanton is
complicated
pissed too.
Yeah.
I think Stan's pissed too because the Mariners are the second most profitable team in Major League Baseball, so he's gunning for number one. And I mean he's probably gunning for number one, and that would mean us fans losing a lot of money.
Yeah, it's gonna be complicated for the Mariners for sure. Just forget what's going on. Let's just forget what's going on in the back here. So let's get the Mariners out of the way. Josh, let's go ahead and talk about the Seahawks here. Now, we basically completely missed free agency. Didn't make an episode at all during that session, but it's fine. Let's just go through who we kept and who we and who we got. Maybe a couple of guys that we lost. Starting off with probably the biggest name on the list, Leonard Williams. Josh, look, we gave up a second rounder for Leonard Williams, so there was no way we weren't gonna let him go, right? Like he played with us for about like 10 games or something like that. We had to keep it a second round pick. You're not gonna just use a second round pick for a guy who played 10 games. Obviously, we were gonna get him back somehow. Got him on a good, I would say a good deal. A little expensive, but
I would say expensive.
It was expensive, but honestly, if we're giving up a second round pick for this guy, it had to be done. And obviously, this is huge for our D line. We really need another guy on that line to help stop the run and create a little bit of pressure against the opposing quarterbacks. Josh, how do we feel about the Leonard Williams re-sign?
I guess it's fine. It's like doubling down on a bad decision, I would say.
That's fair.
I mean,
I see.
He's not like the lights out guy, and now instead of just cutting their losses at a second round pick, we're doubling down and giving us possibly into a hole if he progresses. I would say there's a good chance he'll be able to give to help this team, but there's a lot more downside to him, and that expensive contract really sucks. And I mean, I think it was basically the same amount of money for Chase Young too, which the 49ers signed. That could have been, we could have used that money for him instead, but
yeah, but we also got to remember that like when Leonard Williams came onto this team, like he made a difference like right away. At like certain points, he was the only thing on our defense that was actually like being. He was the only player on our defense that was actually like doing something out there. It seemed like everyone else was like non-existent. It was like Leonard Williams versus 11 offensive players. It was like that at some point. So I mean, he makes an impact on this team. I wouldn't mind giving him a good amount of money for him to come back. And like I said, I mean, with what we gave up for him, it had to be done. And I don't think it was a really bad decision, honestly. Unless he like really regresses this year, then I'll start being like bad timing. But the past season he did show he's honestly possibly worth that much because of how much he like puts into our defense and how much of a difference he can make just being out there on the line of scrimmage. With the tight end situation, it was getting very confusing because all three of the dudes we had on the team were going to be free agents. We only brought back one, and that was Noah Fant, who, as we remember, came in the Russell Wilson package. We let go. Colby Parkinson did sign with other teams. So we brought back Noah Fant. Josh, how do you feel about him being chosen out of the three tight ends we had?
I like it. I like that they chose Noah Fant. I mean, Geno Smith really loved Noah Fant last year. He was given a lot of targets. He was able to get first downs from him, and I think Geno really loved him. And I think we traded for him. I think he's the best tight end out of the three, and I think that's why we chose for him.
Yeah, and those are the two guys that we were able to keep. Let's go to a big name that we were able to garner in free agency, and that was Dolphins linebacker Jerome Baker. Now, one of our linebackers went over to Miami in Jordan Brooks. We'll talk about that more a little later. But we did get Jerome Baker, I guess, as an incentive or something like that. It was almost like a switcheroo, but not really a trade because it was all in free agency. But we did get Jerome Baker, and look, I mean, Jerome Baker's been a solid linebacker for Miami and has been a starter on that team for a good while now. So we're getting a good veteran linebacker on this team. Josh, I mean, would this be an upgrade from Jordan Brooks, possibly a downgrade, or like the same thing? How do you feel about the Jerome Baker signing?
Yeah, I just feel pretty neutral about it. I think it was just basically a trade. I mean, Jordan Brooks for Jerome Baker, and I would just basically a swap for those two teams. Maybe just get fresh faces or something, I guess. Yeah, he's played pretty well. I mean, for his entire career, hasn't except last year, he's been pretty healthy and has been able to get some really good stats and help the Dolphins.
Yeah, and then another linebacker that we got was Tyrell Dodson, who, when it was announced that he signed with Seattle, everybody was like, who is this guy? Who is this nobody? Why did we sign this guy? We lost Brooks and we got a nobody. I guess no one looked... Okay. To be fair, a lot of people don't like PFF, but he was PFF's highest graded linebacker. Inside linebacker. Highest graded inside linebacker. So...
Yeah, you gotta pull off the ESPN stat kind of thing. Inside linebacker.
He did start 10 games with the Bills. I mean, he was solid. I wouldn't say he's gonna be like Brooks level, but he was a pretty high grade. He plays a pretty solid job at linebacker, considering we lost two linebackers. It was the right move to bring in Dodson and Baker in, get a new fresh feel for that middle part in on the defense, and possibly a little faster, because I'm not trying to get another Bobby Wagner on that team where they move around like a stiff old man. And speaking of linebackers, let's talk about the guys who left this team, and that includes Bobby Wagner and Jordan Brooks. So Bobby Wagner went to the Commanders for some reason. I guess he really wants to play in a stadium that sprays poop water on people. And then Jordan Brooks to Miami, which is a solid choice, honestly. So obviously we're losing two very important, crucial members of the defense and the team. And honestly, with Wagner, it was time to go. I mean, you saw him this past season. He's just a shell of his former self. He honestly needs to retire at this point. Do what KJ's doing. Like podcasting and go coach for the 49ers for some reason. And And then with Jordan Brooks, honestly, I'm kind of torn here because, like, look, injuries were a problem for sure, but when he was on the field, man, did he make a difference. I mean, you saw him last year. He was flying all over the place, even though he was coming off a torn ACL. He had that great pick six in the Thanksgiving game, which was the only highlight of that game, by the way. And he was just playing a lot better than Bobby did this year. Like, he seemed more well-rounded, a better tackler, faster than Bobby was all season. So for him to go to the Dolphins, it does suck to see, but we did get Jerome Baker. So, not a complete loss after all. Will Disley went to the Chargers, Damian Lewis to the Panthers, Parkinson to the Rams, DJ Dallas to the Cardinals, which does bring a little bit of a question mark as to who will be our new kick returner. And that's where we brought in Laviska Shenault Jr., who was a Panther, and then he was also a Jaguar for a little bit. The rumors that he's going to be our new kick returner and possibly punt returner, I would say either. I've seen him play. I saw him play with like Jacksonville. Honestly, he's solid. He was like a solid second, third option. He could possibly fight for like the returner spot with D. Eskridge if D. Eskridge, is not injured as usual. Because I remember like D. Eskridge for a little bit there, he was like pretty good at returner.
I think this year, now with the new kickoff rules, I think it's kick returners isn't going to be about speed anymore. It's going to be about lateral movement, because you'll have to basically, as soon as you catch it, you'll have to get through basically a big wall of defenders and your guys too. So I think it's going to be who can snake around all those players the fastest rather than speed, because you'll only have like maybe 5 to 10 yards to run after you catch the ball before you run into that line of people.
And then with the QB spot, Drew Lock went to the Giants, but the Seahawks, for a little bit, people there were like, all right, that means we're drafting a QB. We're going to get somebody. We're going to get Michael Penix. Nah, we got Sam Howell from the Commanders. So, Josh, I mean, okay, when I saw that, I'm not even going to lie. I was like, what? Why? Like, I thought we were drafting a QB this year, because look at that QB class. It's stacked. But, I mean, Sam Howell he wasn't horrible last year, I guess. I mean, okay, look, he threw a lot of interceptions, but he's got a good arm. He could, like, he's got a good deep ball for sure. And honestly, besides the interceptions, the rest of his stats weren't even that bad. And it's not his fault. He played on the Commanders, which is like a really trash team in the first place. But Josh, how did you feel about the Sam Howell signing? I thought it was okay.
I mean, I didn't care who it is. I mean, he's fine. I guess he's fine as a backup. But I think it just showed that the Seahawks aren't going to draft a QB this year. Or if they do, it's going to be very, very surprising. But most likely not. Which, yeah, it's a surprise. I still think Geno Smith's the better guy for now, sure. And Sam Howell's a pretty good backup.
And let's go back to the defense, because I almost forgot about this, but we did release Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams near the start of free agency. So, obviously, you're going to have Julian Love come up and be the new strong safety, but that means who else is going to be a safety on this team, as Josh takes a second here. But we did sign Rayshawn Jenkins from the Jaguars. So, I mean, the question here is like, it's going to be a hard gap to fill, especially because Jamal and Quandre were such like a fearsome duo when Jamal was even on the field. But we got Rayshawn Jenkins, who was a starter for the Jaguars in the past 2 seasons. Josh, how did you feel about the signing of Rayshawn Jenkins? Yeah, Rayshawn Jenkins. Oh boy. It looks like Josh here is having internet difficulties. Alright, looks like I'm going to be yapping a little bit more. Look, I like the Rayshawn Jenkins addition. There's Josh. We needed another safety in there. So, honestly, to get a starter from a different team and bring him into Seattle was a fine choice, in my opinion. Josh, how did you feel about the signing of Rayshawn Jenkins?
What was it? Who is it? Is that Jenkins, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was trying to avoid a technical difficulty because my computer was gonna die, which I've probably done on this podcast way too many times. Um, and then my computer just disconnected its Wi-Fi too. So I mean, there's always gonna be problems with me on this podcast. Anyway, for Jenkins, I would say pretty good move by the Seahawks. I guess just try to fill in some guys. I guess. I don't know.
That's all. That's all. Yeah. I mean, I see what you mean. If it was like a big name, I'd be a lot more excited. But
Let's go.
I mean, no one's really heard that much of Rayshawn Jenkins besides that he was a starter. But honestly, if we're getting a starter, I'm fine with it. So yeah, this is gonna be a new look team for Mike McDonald's Seahawks. So it's gonna be interesting to see how the team just works things out. I mean, the draft is coming up soon, so we'll figure out who we might want to get or who possibly will land to us. There's a lot of names floating out there, like Troy Fautanu from Washington. That's a big name that's coming towards Seattle as a rumor. But there's also other names like JJ McCarthy. But we'll see what happens as the draft rolls around. We'll possibly do a mock draft in a future episode. But it is going to be interesting to see how this team rolls once the season comes around, especially with all these new free agents and all the departures from the team in the past. How about we go to the Sounders here? The Sounders did also recently start their season, but, you know, unlike the Mariners, they have not won. I don't think they've won. They have not won. Josh, brutal start to the season. How do you feel?
Man, like, it's been a whole entire month of the season. 5 games, lost 3, and have drawn twice. This team, man. 50th anniversary season. You expect something from a team that's projected to be top of the Western Conference. And that's not happening. I mean, start with a 2-1 loss to LAFC. Tied to one of the worst teams in the league in Austin FC. Tied to the Colorado Rapids, which we've had the best winning percentage in any of the other MLS teams against them. Come back 2 goals to the San Jose Earthquakes, only to let in an 89th minute goal to lose the game. And then lose to the LA Galaxy in a rain field. This is LA. It does not rain in California. We have rain all the time in the stadium. It's a waterlogged field, and you can't get a goal. We've scored 1 goal in actual pace of play. All our other goals have been off penalty kicks. We've scored 1 goal genuinely in the goal during the pace of play. Stephen Fry has played 1 game, and he let in the most awful goal I've ever seen against the LA Galaxy. We've been playing with basically what has been our 3rd string goalkeeper because we lost our 2nd string to Austin FC, and he's on the bench of Austin FC, too. Just this team has been disappointing. This new logo, this new rebranding thing has been absolutely awful, and I just hate it. And Leo Chu, star striker, out for 4 to 6 weeks. Pedro de la Vega, Argentinian striker, which basically made our biggest move this offseason, out for 4 to 6 weeks. We keep on losing people. Everything is going downhill. It's so early in the season, we can't activate the panic button yet, but we've been so bad that this has been a long enough rant.
Man, Josh is going through it, guys. But honestly, valid when your team hasn't won a single game yet, and it's already 5 games into the season. Like you said, can't hit the panic button yet, but honestly, if this is the panic button, your finger would be right here right now. Clearly, a lot of disappointment for Sounders fans everywhere, watching their team just completely stumble, watching their team give up a goal in the 89th minute, watching their team lose their best players, and just an ugly logo and ugly looking jerseys. Yeah, Sounders fans are going through it. It is an unfortunate time to be a Sounders fan. Luckily, that's not me because I don't watch soccer, guys. But yeah, look, okay, Seattle sports has not been looking good lately because you know what else happened in Seattle sports? The Seattle Kraken got eliminated from playoff contention. Josh, you feel the energy for another rant right now? Do you feel it?
Have to do this all over
Do
again.
you feel this in you? Feel it in you, Josh? Or do you want me to just do it for you?
After the 3-1 loss against the Vegas Golden Knights on March 21st, 2024, I stopped watching the Kraken.
Wow, okay. You know it's gotten bad when Joshua Ngo stops watching the Seattle Kraken, guys. That's how bad this team has gotten. That's how disappointing this team has been. Yeah. Okay. Josh, let me just fill you in after the loss to the Golden Knights. They lost to the Coyotes 2-1. They lost to the Canadiens 5-1. They beat the Ducks 4-0. They beat the Ducks 4-2. They lost to Dallas, and then they beat the Sharks 4-2. And then they lost to the Kings 5-2. So, yeah, just mostly losses. So, yeah, their season is over. Which is, I mean, it's just so disappointing because last year they made, like, a crazy Cinderella run so far into the playoffs, and now just to come back next season and just underwhelm your fans, underwhelm all the analysts that were expecting you to like come into the season possibly being Stanley Cup contenders. It's just complete disappointment,
okay, maybe
right?
not cup contenders. Let's be real here. Let's get the standards correct.
You never know. There's definitely a crazy analyst out there who said that. But I mean, considering last year how far they went, you wouldn't they were like a little bit of a dark horse in a way. So I mean, just really disappointing, Josh. I mean, if you had like 3 words to describe it, what would it be?
We suck a lot, and then we'll mush the A a lot together to make it a lot.
Well, you heard it from Josh. Yeah. So let's just recap a little bit here. Seahawks allegedly sign a bunch of nobodies, but we don't know about that yet. We'll see when they actually play. That's just how the majority of the fans on social media feel. Sounders off to an awful start. They are currently winless. Mariners, not the best start, under 500 after 7 games, and the Kraken are eliminated from the playoffs. So, yeah, for the main big name sports of Seattle, it has not been so great so far. Besides the Seahawks, I mean, they haven't started the season yet, but the fans just assume if they don't
Can't lose if the season hasn't started yet.
If the fans don't know the guy, that means they suck. Apparently, that's just what all the fans online say. But don't listen to them. Let the players, let their play just prove it all wrong. We'll see what happens by the time August and September roll around. But Josh, since the big name Seattle sports have not been doing good, why don't you name possibly some good news from the smaller Seattle sports?
Nope, nothing happened. No, I'm just kidding. Let's start off with the Tacoma Rainiers, who started their season, I think, the same day as the Seattle Mariners and have a winning record.
That's already a plus.
Yay, winning record. I know that's like impossible these days with the Mariners and all those professional teams and stuff. For the other minor league teams, their season starts tomorrow or today. When are we posting this? Tomorrow. Tomorrow. So, yeah, opening days today or tomorrow or whenever you're watching this.
Whenever you're watching this.
Whenever you're watching. Oh, hey, hi, me 5 years in the future. Everett Aqua Sox, Arkansas Travelers, and Modesto Nuts. So the low A, high A, and double A teams for the Seattle Mariners, and they all released their rosters, which is a bit underwhelming because they kept all their players. Most of Modesto Nuts players that won them the California League last year are still on the team, but everybody else kind of promoted to the next team, especially like that line. Tyler Locklear, Ben Ramirez, Hogan Windish, Cole Young, Alberto Rodriguez, Harry Ford as well. Basically, all those star Aqua Sox players that got them runners up in the Northwest League. All of them are going up to the Arkansas. Yeah, all the way across the country, all the way to Arkansas Travelers, to play. And let's move on. Who else we got? Washington Wolfpack, the
Arena Football League.
Arena Football League. They're gonna start their season April 28th at Angel of the Winds Arena. New expansion team. They follow me on Twitter. That's a plus. And moving on to the WHL playoffs. We're going into Western Hockey League playoffs. So unaffiliated minor league hockey. Seattle Thunderbirds have been eliminated, but the Everett Silvertips are leading 2-1 their first round playoff series. And that's it. Yeah, that's it for the minor league stuff, I guess.
Shout out small Seattle sports. All right, let's go a little bit more national now. Obviously, we just finished March, which we didn't make an episode for all month. But if it means March, that means March Madness. Say, Josh, how was that bracket going?
Really?
Yeah, I had to do it, guys. So the squad at our school, we had a bracket online on ESPN, and Josh here, Josh, how about you tell them how you decide who wins your bracket?
I don't want to reveal my secrets, I guess. Actually, they probably don't work. So, but yeah, I mean, I calculated just the percentage of them winning and then subtracted that by the number of people who picked the team. So basically it's more leverage for every game I win, but that would mean making I would say picks that not a lot of people would be making. It incentivizes that. And this year I picked Arizona to win the championship, and they did not make the Elite Eight. So
and meanwhile, I got my bracket done in about 5 minutes, and I picked St. Mary's. So obviously, you know how it ended for both of us. Where is St. Mary's, by the way? Let me find where they got eliminated. Did they get eliminated?
First round exit.
They were first round exit.
Yeah.
Yikes!
I sent you that.
Yeah. So yeah,
you don't even know how your team got eliminated.
yeah. That was fair. Why can I not find them? Am I like tripping or something?
Me neither. Wait, where? Oh, they lost 75-66 against Grand Canyon University.
I see. Yeah. So I had a good run in first place there until they played. That's when my bracket was good, but I'm still ahead of Josh. So in the rankings, so I'd say that's a win. Yeah, I can still. Oh, I can't get any more points either. So I beat you. Let's go, guys. This is the guy that made a giant spreadsheet for all of this, right? And I picked mine in 5 minutes after we watched the movie. He sent me the link. He's like, yo, fill out the March Madness thing. I'm like, all right. Got it done in 5 minutes, and I still somehow have more points. I don't watch any March Madness, by the way. Like I watch it once in a while. I watched it a little bit this year because of Jared McCain, because that guy's pretty funny. But that was about it. But you know what? We are at the Final Four now, and the Cinderella run this year, and I say this year because it happens every year. This year, it was NC State. The number 11 seed NC State has made it to the Final Four, where they will face Purdue. The other game is Alabama versus UConn, but you know what? Everybody's focusing on the Cinderella story because that happens every year. So NC State, just a crazy, crazy set of upsets they had. It started off with a win over Texas Tech in the first round. Then they got the dub over... I'm going to have to scroll a while here. They got the dub over Oakland in the second round. Oakland was also a big upset, by the way.
Yeah.
Then they got Oh, jeez, why is
against Marquette in the third round.
And then,
60, and then Duke.
yeah, Duke
76-64.
defeated Duke in the Elite Eight, which was a crazy. Wasn't it like a crazy comeback all the way? Because Duke was ahead for a little bit, but that second half, I mean, NC State was just on a complete roll. So never sleep. That's why you just never sleep. Anything can happen in March Madness. Honestly, if they beat Purdue, I mean, okay, I'm the guy that had Purdue going out first round because I just assumed Purdue chokes every year. Honestly, you never know. NC State could pull off the craziest upset, and they've already pulled off crazy upsets. So this would just be like another day to them. But for the rest of America, this would just be complete shock once again. Josh, give me your Final Four predictions right now.
Final Four predictions. Say UConn, trying to go for a repeat championship, playing against Alabama, who's been, I would say, an okay team, but UConn has just been dominant all year, and they've been dominant throughout this tournament. I'm gonna pick UConn to go to the championship here, and then, oh shoot, who's calling me? Oh no, okay. For the NC State Purdue game, you got NC State has a big man who's been scouted by football scouts for some reason, and Purdue, who always chokes in March Madness. As you said, anything can happen in March Madness as long as you're in the tournament. Cough, cough, Huskies. So I would say
Funny.
NC State goes to the championship, but loses to UConn.
I can definitely see that happening. The Cinderella run always ends somewhere. And, yeah, I gotta agree with you here. UConn's going back-to-back, but NC State does finish their Cinderella run in the championship, and although they fall short, I mean, to be able to get that far as an 11th seed is just insane. So, props to NC State for just making the Final Four already. That's already crazy enough. Those guys should be proud of what they did, because as an 11 seed, obviously the odds are already stacked against you from the start. So to be able to get that far, just an amazing job by that NC State squad. Okay, that's pretty much all we've got. But let's just take a moment aside here. Josh, we gotta talk about the LeBron James meme. What is going on right now? What is this LeBron James meme? If you have not seen the LeBron James meme on your, oh my gosh. I am just speaking gibberish right now. If you have not seen the LeBron James meme on your feed, I don't know. You may be living under a rock. Cause, okay, honestly,
you sending it to me was the first time I've ever saw it.
I got like 5 of them in my feed in a row. I know Jacob for sure's got 10 of them in a row because Jacob sure loves glazing LeBron. When we get it back on here, I guarantee he plays it for us like at some point during the episode.
You are my sunshine.
Exactly. Just okay. If you haven't seen it yet, just picture this: an oversaturated headshot of LeBron James. And the background music is just Christina Perri's version of "You Are My Sunshine." That's all the meme is, and honestly, it's actually been so funny. Like I don't know why. It's just I think it's just because it's so simple. That's what makes it so funny. It's like those old Vines back in the day, where it's just like an old camera recording something stupid, and it becomes a giant meme. That's what it feels like. It's like nothing crazy. It's just that, and then like the copy and paste of like. Boy oh boy, or like boy LeBron, where do I begin? Like, it's just completely hilarious. LeBron glazing has just gone to a crazy, like, just crazy heights now, and it's honestly so funny to see. I love how people just turn this whole like LeBron is the GOAT into just a complete joke, which is good because that makes the case for MJ a lot better. As you guys may know, I believe MJ's the GOAT. We'll save that debate for another time. Maybe when Jay goes back. But
were you born when Michael Jordan played?
I was not. But
yeah, okay.
But that doesn't mean you can't. Like if I was like an NFL fan, I can't. Like I could say, okay, wait, no, that's not a good argument because I watched Tom Brady. But let's say like the best wide receiver of all time. I didn't watch Jerry Rice when he played. But I don't need to be alive to watch him play to know how good he was. Like, just the same way with Michael Jordan, right? You see what I'm saying here? It's a good argument, right?
Yeah.
It's a valid argument. Oh my gosh, I am choking today. But yeah, for some reason that meme is just so funny. For some reason, you'll see it on the thumbnail. I'll put it on the thumbnail later. But yeah, that's where we're gonna. I think that's where we're gonna end this episode off, just talking about an oversaturated photo of LeBron James. Good stuff. Good stuff.
There we go.
All right, thanks guys for hanging in there and waiting for 6 weeks for a new episode to come out. But we are finally back. May take another 6 weeks off because Josh and I have a CBA coming up. I wonder if Mr. Trost is watching this. But the next time we see you guys, hopefully we'll still be able to keep up with whatever the heck is going on in Seattle sports. But don't worry, we will be back eventually. Don't know when, but it'll be sometime. But for now, thank you for watching, everybody. If you haven't checked us out yet, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Podcasts. Wherever you get your podcasts, we're going to be on there. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. Give us a 5-star if you are listening on any podcast site. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening and watching. And just stay tuned to Seattle sports no matter how rough it gets.